Hello lovely people of YouTube and welcome back to Mark on Life. This week I want to talk about a frustrating artistic concept, the difficult second album. So, let's get to it. So, before we go any further, as always I want to thank everybody who watched last week's vlog. Bit of a more current events type vlog last time. So this week I want to get back to what the normal output for this channel is, which is artistic film and comedy type stuff. Now there is a reason for this week's topic, and that is because I have an announcement. And that is that the second series of Reeltrospectives is coming, finally. The first episode of series 2 will be coming out on Friday the 3rd of March. I'm not going to say what the episode is yet, but if you look at film schedules, you can probably guess. That's just a little clue. Before we go any further, quick disclaimer. I promise you, I do not have delusions of grandeur. Because the phrase, difficult second album, is obviously usually used when the first album was hugely successful, seminal, it was phenomenally popular. And I'm not saying in any way that the first series of Reeltrospectives was that. I promise you that's not what I'm saying. But I think we can all understand that that term, difficult second album, has gone way beyond that now. It doesn't literally just mean that. It's metaphorical now to any second outing or follow-up of something artistic. So it could be a sequel of a film, second series of a TV show, second book coming out, as well as obviously an album. And because I am doing another series of my little comedy vids, a few of the concepts of it have been going through my mind. I was having lunch with my parents yesterday, and my dad, who has been a music player avidly for his whole life, was talking to me about it. And the one thing I think people don't understand is why it's a difficult second album. They know what it is. They know that doing another one is going to be difficult for some reason, but not exactly why. So I want to talk about that today. So there's a couple of reasons, I think. Firstly, it's the pressure. Obviously, that's the one people know about. That you've put something out to the world, and there was no pressure the first time because you weren't known, or your product wasn't known. You might have been a singer in your bedroom, and then you put out an album, and now people know you. So there was no pressure before, but now for the second album there is, because people do know you. They expect a certain thing from you. They expect that that's your style, or that's the quality of your music, or whatever it might be. And when we expand that to all art, it's the same for everybody. They expect that your next book will be as good as the first, etc. And that pressure obviously goes onto the person that's making that piece of art. I understand that, and I think generally people, that's the reason people understand. But why? Why is that pressure? My understanding of it is because, let's take the example of an album. An average album these days is what? 10 to 15 songs? Something like that. About 12 on average. And those 12 songs, I think people think that those are the ones written for that album. Somebody wrote 12 songs, put them on the album, that was it. That is almost always not the case. The case is normally that those 12 songs are 12 of maybe 50 to 100, maybe even more, that this person has written over their entire life up until that point. So, a brand new 25, 21, 18-year-old singer-songwriter, yeah, they've put those 12 out, but they've probably been writing songs since they were a teenager. If they're 25, that's 10 years maybe of writing. And that's only if they started young. If their first album came out when they were 30, 40 even, that could be 20 years of songwriting. And so you've got a much bigger cache of material to then select the best ones. So when the record label says we're going to choose 12 tracks to go on this album. You can say, great, I've got, 70 songs in the bank. I'll choose the 10 that are going to be an absolute, hit. And that's what we're going to put out there. And so this album is that. It's an album full of the gold that you had amongst the other stuff, which is maybe lesser quality because you write some good stuff and some not so good stuff over a long period of time. The second album is nothing like that. Because now you have a year after you've done everything on the first album with tours and all that kind of stuff, music videos. Now you're writing the second one and you're writing it from scratch. So you're not writing 50 or 100 songs over that time. You're writing 10 over a much more condensed time period. So you don't have that wealth of material to then condense. You just got to write it. And it better be good. As good as the best ones of all your material from the last time. So I suppose it sort of connects with the pressure of the first reason. But it's mainly that, I think, that this is all the material for the second one. And beforehand, you had much more to choose from. And this leads into something a little bit different. Sometimes I worry that I've told all the stories, is a bit of a grandiose term, but I've said all the things I want to say. I might have done all the sketches I had planned anyway. For anybody that does comedy or writing, often you have a load of ideas and you have them in your mind for a long time, and you might just play with them, improv them, write them, or do nothing at all, just think about them for years and years and years. And then when you do make some stuff, that's usually the things that you make. It's like, an example is Kevin Smith. Brilliant director, filmmaker, for anybody who doesn't know. He's the guy that made Chasing Amy and Clerks and all that kind of stuff. And at some point, he quit the business. He stopped making films for a very simple reason. He had no more stories to tell. He probably had scripts sent to him to make left, right and centre, but he's not a filmmaker that does that. He has a story and he wants to tell that story, so he makes a movie. And when he ran out of stories, he stopped making movies. Now, thankfully, later on, a few years later, he had some more things that he wanted to say, and so started making movies again, which is great. But it's a very important artistic thing that he had, that he only did things when he wanted to say them, rather than just doing it for the sake of it, which he absolutely could have. And so now I'm thinking, have I said all the things that I planned to? The sketches, the comedy ideas, particularly the movie-based ones that I'm doing now, maybe the ones that I did in the first series were the ones that I planned, were the ones that are in my head originally. And if I continue to do them, will they be ones that I really had in mind, or are they just ones that I'm just doing? I suppose you have to move with the times anyway, because I never intended this to be series. I was just doing them every 2 weeks, which is what it will be, apart from this break just after New Year in January. It will be every 2 weeks, one will go out. And this series is going to be a little bit different, because it is going to be more modern. It's not necessarily going to be just classics. It's going to be maybe connected with a modern schedule to try and change things up. I'll speak about that more in future weeks, but we'll have to see. So I guess all I'm saying is I hope that artistically I make things that I still like, but that other people like too. Because if you don't like what you're doing, the whole thing is sort of pointless, isn't it? What about you? Have you ever made something and then worried about doing the next thing might be not as good or up to the standards of the first thing? Let me know in the comments below, and as usual, we'll discuss.